Rajiv. Good morning, Shahid. Am I audible to you guys? Can confirm Shahid or Rajiv. I can see Shahid still having issues.
Yeah, good morning, Manoj. Yeah, you got audible.
Okay, cool. So meanwhile, Shahid establishes his connection fine. I can see he's having some issues right now. How is it going so far, Rajiv? Do you, are you finding the content okay? Gaining some understanding? Did something on your end? How are things?
Yeah, Manoj. So far the content is good. So I have seen all the things are covered in the context.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. But still, I'm looking forward to see more on those B2P integration and API kind of things. Uh,
Okay.
and also, Manoj, at the end of the course content, if you can showcase some real-time integration design, means how the integration are being designed for different case studies. So it will be beneficial, I think.
For different case studies, you're saying.
Yeah,
Uh, I am not sure if I would be able to show you because that would, that would be requiring to collect from various sources. But yes, what I can do is, I will try to maybe discuss some of the scenarios where, the requirements were different or conditions were different and, what all we tried or what all I have seen in the past, or, how things were driven, how the design was taken forward and things around it. So that for sure we can discuss.
okay.
Okay. All right. Hi, Shahid.
Hi, sir.
How are you? All good? How are things?
Yeah, all good. All.
Okay. So, was checking that with Shahid, Rajiv as well. How's it going with you so far with the content? Have you spent time? Everything looks okay. Hey, Avinash. Um, okay. Hey, Avinash, can you hear me now?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. All right. So, I'm sure, you three are finally here who have enrolled and got all the details as well. So, did you guys got the credentials and all from the team yesterday or not yet? Can you confirm?
I got it. I got that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I have also got that.
Okay, all right. Um, okay. And Avinash, you as well?
Y- Were you asking about the login credentials for the environment to practice?
For the Boomi and all, yeah, yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
yeah. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right. I recall, Avinash, I think you were not there probably yesterday and day before as well.
Yeah, I joined the first session, first demo session. Yes.
Okay,
After that, I did not join any session.
no worries. So we spent some time yesterday and day before as well on getting a bit more into details of the platform, of the different options we have, around the basic tools and capabilities you have, how will you design your integrations, what all shapes you use, and generic options around all those capabilities. So maybe you just want to revisit those whenever you have time, because I'm sure you have been given the access to the recordings as well by now.
Sure. I'll go through the recordings.
Yeah. And so yeah, we'll continue on that same process what we did yesterday. Process as in the same set of things we were going through yesterday. A couple of more things in detail, and couple of things which came to my mind yesterday later when we kind of finished the session. And since uh, it's not a pretty hefty, I mean, we just four are here now. So maybe instead of getting to any questions towards the end only, I will probably take a pause somewhere in between also, and we'll go around if we have any questions. All right. And having said that, any question? Sorry, Avinash, you were saying something?
No.
Okay. All right. So maybe it was just echo. Okay. So I was saying, Rajiv and Shahid, since we were there yesterday, and I'm sure you must have spent some time. So anything from yesterday, any questions, any doubts you have, or in generic? Okay, I'll take it as a no for now.
So far, no questions from my side, Manoj.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. Let's take a start, and I'm sharing the screen. Please confirm when you see it. Okay. Can you see my screen? Just confirm.
Yes, I can see.
Okay. All right. So, I think what we went across yesterday is, from the starting of when you log in and land to a home page, from there moving to integration post services, and thereafter we went across, different options we have here under Component Explorer, under different ways to create components, different ways to access the process libraries. Um, Different options we see here on this ribbon, what all categories we get to see over here, what all shapes we have, around in the integration. And then, a couple of things we try to move across or just see across here, like routing, branching, logics, and all those things. And we spend good time on start shape, where we try to understand what all different options we have, process level options for all different type category options, where we can either choose the connections or get it like data pass through or no data, or get to trading partners and all those scenarios. And likewise, we try to do few other activities as well. All right. Now, where do we start? So one thing which I observed yesterday, and this could be something, this could be something which happens pretty often, and could be a nightmare in the scenarios when uh this list on the canvas or the component explorer on the left is pretty long, which means the account where you're working, it is something where you have a humongous amount of processes running. You have vast amount of activities being done here. So you needed to be very cautious. You needed to be very cautious in the sense what you are building, where you are building, because you have to maintain your folder structures, you have to maintain your naming conventions and all those standard uh, practices kind of thing to maintain your readability, to maintain your cleanliness around the landscape. So while we were trying to build these processes like randomly yesterday, we kind of missed on uh, observing or checking where are these getting built. So like you see, we although we created kind of a demo folder, day three folder, and something like that, but under a training folder. But when actually we were creating, we kind of missed to observe where we are creating those. So they went and got created under like the root folder of this particular account. So that's one thing which you have to be a little cautious, because at times what happens is right now, because this is a small canvas, so I can see where they were getting built. But at times when you are so lost in your development, when you are so lost in all the logic you need to build, all the hit and trial and R&D you are doing, that you create a lot of things in such a hurry, and obviously you didn't notice where they are getting created, and that's kind of lost thereafter. So you have to spend some time, or maybe do the show usage kind of activity to figure out where it is getting built and all that. So just be cautious around it, where you're building it and all those scenarios. But for once, by mistakenly, if it is being built also, you can just move it to your, anticipated or expected folders as well. That's the another step which you can take. So like right now, this process, we can go to the options ahead of the name. Click on the folder and you can see where it is built. So what you can do from here is you can select a folder where you want it to be moved. Let's say we say take it to demo folder and click move. It will ask, it will give an alert and ask the, it will be moved and saved if you confirm. So yes, that's what you need to do. Let's move and save. Now when it is saved, you can see the process has been moved to the demo folder. Now, similarly, we can do the other as well. Not a very necessary, but doing it just for the sake of cleaning up. Okay. So that's one thing which which you can be very cautious and plan your things or do your things around accordingly. Now, another thing which I wanted to see is if we can just show or walk through the options here as well. So over on the Component Explorer, if you also see ahead of any folder or any component as well.
Manoj, sorry for interrupting. And
Yeah.
your voice is a bit low. Can you please check? I'm not sure if that issue is from my end only.
Yeah, for me as well. It is low. Correct.
Okay. Just give me 1 second. Let me try to.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay, all right, cool. So I was using the AirPods maybe because of that it was slow. Thanks for checking and reminding on that.
Yes.
Okay, so I was saying we'll just quickly check on the options we have ahead, in front of the folder structures, in front of any component as well. So let's say the four options we have in front of any folder. You click on these three dots on the right hand side, of this Component Explorer. Just click on that and see what all options you have. So I think we reviewed yesterday also. From here, you can create new component. If you create this component from here, it will be directly created under this demo folder. Yeah, you can create a new folder. Again, it will be created like a subfolder under this. Then you can rename it. You can copy this folder and maybe drop it to another folder location, or we can do like from account to account copy as well, which we'll see maybe later. Then you can delete the folder permissions. We have the control of providing certain different level of permissions as well, at the component level, at the folder level. So that's something which we might review at the, admin sites. But yes, that's another capability which is given to maybe some folks who have advanced level of permissions. So there are options to put restrictions on certain folders, and people with limited level of access wouldn't be able to get down into those folders and check on the content or maybe the processes within there. So they would be kind of logged for them. Similarly, component level based permissions are also doable. So that's ahead of the in front of the folder. And if you review the component level, we have 4 options. Open component, simply open the component for us. Delete, just deletes it. Now, 2 good things we want to see here is copy and show where used. Copy is simple, as the name goes by, it creates a copy of this particular component, and wherever you want to get it not moved but pasted, it just create a separate copy of this thing over in in your location which you will provide. So let's say if I say copy, you'll get few different other options here on the window. Component to copy is the name of the component which is in action right now. Enter name here. You can provide the new name over here. Let's say I got it off. Copy. And then that's an option which you get, copy to account. So there are scenarios when you're working with a tenant, which have different accounts. So like right now we have this training account. There may be other accounts as well, which one of you might have got access, or you may be working with an organization who have multiple tenants or multiple accounts. So within those scenarios, you have options to move your integrations from one account to a different account as well. And that comes handy at time of scenarios when one of the account is, let's say, pretty heavily built, all the templates and everything is built into it, but the another account is something which you are building like pretty recently, something is just set up. So in those scenarios, you are able to move your templates into the new account and get a head start. So that's one scenario which is applicable in this case, but there may be others as well. So that's one option. Copy passcode across all accounts. This is most of the time grayed out. I think once you create a copy into a separate account, that's when it is kind of gets enabled. One very important option is this copy component dependence. A lot of activities depend on if you select it or if you don't select it. Now, so copy component dependence, if you have selected it, what does that mean is anything which is part of the component you are copying. So right now, because we are copying just a simple profile, so there wouldn't be anything which is part of this profile as a subcomponent or as a something which is inside it. But let's say if you are trying to copy a connection, or maybe you're trying to copy a process altogether, right? So when you try to copy a process, there are 10, 15, 20, 50 subcomponents within it. It has map shapes, it has map functions, it has profiles, it has connections, it has operations, and all those things within the particular process. So when you say, when you check this option, copy component dependence, and when you click OK and all that, what happens is all the components within that particular shape or within that main component are also copied. Are also a separate copy of those components is also created, and that's what is moved along with that component to your new location. So when we do that with a process, all the profiles, connections, operations, maps, map functions, properties, and everything. All separate copy of all those components as well will be created, and which will be moved along with your main component, like main process, to the new location. But in this scenario, when you do not select this option, copy component dependence, what happens is only a copy, only like a very shallow copy of your main component gets moved to the new location, but all of the components which are part of the component injection, or let's say part of the process. So in our scenario, we were copying a process, but I have unchecked this. Now what will happen is my process canvas, like process, whatever shapes I have copied, whatever structure I have built, that kind of will be moved to the new location with a new name maybe. But all the subcomponents within it, let's say all the maps, all the connections, all the operations, all the properties, all the profiles and everything, they will still continue to reference the old components only. So if you click on a map on the new process, it will still reference to the older profile. We will try to just do this and create a demo of it. So let's cancel this. Create a folder. Let's say copy activity. Click save. And what we try to do is new process 2. What does it have? It has not much. What does this new process have? It has a map. I just will okay, this thing, new process, which is all right. So I have this process. Example. Okay, so because we have one map built in this process, and I have two profiles as well. So let's try to copy this. Let's close everything in action. This. Just close. Okay. Here's this. Here's this last. Okay. Now, you can say we'll try to do it both ways. Let's first check. Okay. Let's try to copy by checking the. There it is. So how we can copy it? We'll just go to this three dots. We'll go to copy. Now let's name it copy with check. Okay. This is checked for now, but that's what we wanted to do. Go here and with. So we'll select the folder we want to get it moved. If you have something, if you have some folder created very recently while this action is getting performed, you will always get that new folder name over here in the recommended list. But if the folder already exists and you haven't like done it pretty recently, you need to go to the component explorer and get down to that particular folder. So like this way you get to training folder and demo and all those things. But otherwise, if you have selected, if you have created recently, it will always appear here. We'll go to a check folder. We'll just say okay. Reducing activities done. Now we go to this with check folder. You see all the components which were here within this folder, like flat file, map, XML profile, everything of that is created separately within this particular folder. Now, if I go here and click on my map, this particular component is created. And if I go to the main example which we copied, if I click my map from here, a separate copy of that is created, which means, all of these components created here are, all of these subcomponents created here are a separate copies of the main component. So because we asked to make a separate copy of all the components, that's what it did for us. Now let's try with the another option. Call it out without check. Save. Go back to the process. Copy example. Say copy. Without check example. And unselect this check. Copy component dependence. Now select your destination folder because we just created, so it's appearing here without check. Select it, click OK. And because there are not a lot of activities to perform, so it just quickly finished. Let's open the folder. Now, if you see here, only the process got copied. There is no other component you see over here. Okay, let's close this map. Let's close this. Now let's open this particular one without check example. Now I'm trying to open the map from here. Okay. And if I go to my main process and try to open the map from here, it's the same shape which gets opened. Or just for the reference, let's call it out. Main whole map. Save it. Now, if you go to the main process, which we have been copying, we see main old main map is the name. And if you go in your main process, I mean the process which we just copied without check example, there also it's the same name. So depending on what options you select while copying, that's how it goes. Now that's very that's an option which you have to be very cautious right now because we were simply trying our hands out. But there is not much on this canvas on the left on the component explorer. It is not a landscape where project is having 100 or 200 amount of integrations, a lot of different things built. So it's not a complex structure right now. But in the scenarios when project is very stable and this component explorer is very huge and kind of goes actions and scenes, doing this activity is very crucial, and cautiousness around is very critical because if you accidentally end up creating separate copies, so like in the scenarios, let's say there is a process already existing. You wanted to create a copy of it, but obviously because it has a lot of connections in it, and you might be using a common set of maps in it, common set of profiles in it, or typically understand from a connection perspective. Connections are basically something we will try to standardize those, because if you have 100 integrations calling out the same instance of maybe Salesforce or SAP, you don't want to create separate copies of the connection because that's what you want to ultimately end up doing. You want to call out the existing connection already to save on your licensing and to keep your standardized approach. So even though if it is copied, you can change those, but as a practice, when you copy these, you have to be you have to be watchful and mindful of these kind of scenarios. If you have to spend a minute or something like that, and you have to figure out if you want to go by copying those or you don't want to go by copying those. So there are scenarios when you don't want to copy those, but reference the existing components only. So I mean, as in when you grow, as in when you grow, as in when you build more integrations, you will be able to better judge on this particular scenario. You'll be able to better figure out, make your calls if you want to copy this, or if you want to copy all the components, or if not. But just giving that one thought that it is very crucial to be aware of this. That's one thing. What is the other option which we were seeing? Show where used. Okay. Let's see for this main old map, because now we know that it is being used in 2 different locations or in 2 different processes. Let's try to get to that. Right. So what it does is show where use tells you where that particular component for which you're checking it is being used right now. So I'm saying show where used, and it will give me those 2 process names where it is being getting used. So if you see, first process is under the training folder, which is copy example. And the second process is under the demo folder without example check process name. So that tells me these are the 2 locations where it is being getting used. Clear all. And one good better example we can see is, let's try to use this XML file, show where used. Now you see it has, so when I'm checking for the profile, it is giving me all the locations it is being used in the process, in the map, or if any other location as well. So you see it is giving me process name, it has given me map name, and similarly over in the new folder as well. So, and this options comes very handy when let's consider this. You have a team of maybe 20 people who are working on the same project on the same account. Everybody is everybody is building his own set of integrations, per the requirement and all that. Everybody is doing his own set of R&D, POC, not POCs, but more of R&Ds, because that's everybody's needed to build something different. Now, what might happen is, or maybe some people out of those are doing some debugs as well. What might happen is, in the debug scenarios or in the POC or R&D kind of scenarios, everybody will build something in their test folders, and maybe for trying their hands out, they will build separate copies of the connection as well, maybe deploy that and try some tests out. And this typically happens in debug kind of scenarios, because everybody's testing something new problem. So what they end up doing is they create a copy of the existing production process, and just maybe deploy that to test few things out. Now, what might happen in this case is, because you have directly copied your production process or did something around, you will probably end up using 2 connections, because there was one connection in your main process which you were using, which was the standard connection. But now when you're debugging, you created a copy and directly deployed it. So you create, obviously a separate copy was created, and that's what you have also deployed. And for example, 5 or 10 people did this activity for debug, or maybe their R&D kind of thing. What might happen is, when you deploy all those things to QA, if 8 people done out of those 10 folks, 8 new additional set of licenses will be consumed, because you created a separate copy of your connection and deployed it. Now you might get an alert that your licenses are consumed and you're not able to deploy anything new. But at the same time, this gives you an opportunity to go back and figure out where your licenses are getting consumed. And this is one way of doing it. So what you can do is, you can try to figure out what all connections you have for the same instance. Let's say I figure out that, okay, for Salesforce, there are 4 connections being sitting in the canvas or the project landscape. Now I can go back to individual connections and try to do this activity. Okay, checking, show where used, where this connection is getting used. And that's when I can figure out there are local copies of the connections which are getting used in processes and are being deployed. So from there, you can go back and undeploy your local copies and free up some licenses. So this is one of the scenario where this comes very handy. And then a second could be, while cleaning up as in when you create your integration, which is new, you're, most of the time we are so lost that we create maybe different copies of profiles or maps, and maybe for trying hands out. But while doing the activity, although it is a good practice to maybe give it a separate name or a name which is readable to call out that this is not something you're going to use in the main production process, but we don't do that. We kind of miss on that pretty often, and then towards the end, when everything is all done, set up, tested, and all, you require to clean up some of the components which has been sitting idle and they're not part of the main production landscape or the production process. So that is when this option comes very handy. You cannot just directly go and delete anything, because that creates a vulnerability that you might end up deleting something which is needed. So what is better to do is, you go to component, check its usage. If it's not getting used anywhere, that's give a clear indication that that is something good to be deleted. So these are the kind of scenarios which comes in handy, for these kind of options you see. Now there are certain other options here. If you see on the landscape, on the canvas, there's 3 line shape, downward shape of the 3 lines. If you click on it, or maybe you click, you say some, so this is basically for, try searching things or components on the canvas. Again, this is a small structure right now, so it's easy to get down into it and search your things. But in the scenarios when this is pretty huge and you needed to scroll just to, even get to see what all folders, what all things you have, you will be required to search your components at times directly. So that's where you can use this. So let's say I have that XML folder or XML profile. I can just type in XML and click OK. And that will give me one location. Okay, something matching up with this name is sitting here under XML profiles. That's one way to search it. Other more detailed way to search components is if you click on these downward trendy 3 lines. This gives you more granular or more advanced searching criteria. Now you see, because I given that XML name and it gave me one of the option as a output that is also appearing here. So let's cancel it out. Now there are different categories under it. You can search all the deployed components. Right now there is nothing deployed. So if I search it, there wouldn't be anything which will come over here because nothing deployed on our project landscape. If I search for undeployed component, everything will appear. So it's a very good option when you have things to understand what is the components you have on your canvas which are deployed and what are the components which are undeployed, and then you can go back and figure out what from the undeployed components is needed and what not. So it's like a step ahead in what I was just calling out earlier while cleanup activities and all that. That's one way. Select by where used. So that's come automatically when you select, when you do show where used option, that particularly comes up or appears over here. You can search by component wise as well. So let's say I want to search a connection. I click on connection and it clearly gives me an options. Okay, what type of connectivity you want to search. Let's say I select Salesforce. I click OK. It will give me all the available Salesforce connections because there is one. So it gave me that particular component to view directly. So that's how you can select your different components and go by it. You can click for certificate, connected operations. Every component you have on the canvas, you will get a option to select through that in this particular shapes, in this particular category. You can also select by deleted components. So any components which have been deleted recently, you can search by it. This comes in pretty handy. I don't know if there is something already deleted, but let's clear all. Let's go back to it. Click OK. It's giving a lot of options. It's amazing. Okay. But yeah, I mean, where this option comes pretty handy is, so it might happen at times you might delete something accidentally, or you might delete something without checking on the usage. So the other option which we were seeing just a while back, you ended up deleting something without checking the usage of that particular component. Now, but when you were doing something else, uh, or let's say you ended up uh, going into a process where that component was used, and now you want to deploy it. It won't let you deploy the process because it will constantly continue to call out a message that it is referencing a deleted component, so it won't be deployed. So this is the way you can go back, find out your deleted component. It will give you a list of that component, and you can go back and open it. And once it is opened, there would be options you will see over here to restore that component. So you can go back and restore it. And once restored, then only you will be able to deploy your process which was referencing it. So a couple of these options to do your component search. Let's clear these options. Okay, clear it. Go back to your component shapes history. All right. So a couple of things we did here. All right. Let's try to get down into more few of the more other things. Okay. Let's try to review how we run our tests, how we build some of the mappings and try to walk across decision shapes and business rules as well. As we were seeing, I think we've spend good time on the connect part of it. We saw some of the components from the execute category. We saw maps, we saw message, we are good on the process calls, process load, something we'll check. We checked in detail on the data process, find changes, we'll get later, add to cache, we'll get later. Program command. Just to quickly give you a glimpse on program command, it is something which is used not very often, but it is a good, very interesting shape. What it does is, so there are scenarios, I mean, that's one scenario which I'm able to recall right now. There are scenarios when you needed to typically enforce some delay in your process, as in you want to wait for certain seconds within your process, before moving on to the another shape as well. So that's kind of one scenario where this program command came in pretty handy. Like if I drop in at maybe somewhere in this process canvas, let's say over here, so these three shapes will like work in a sequence, process in a sequence, but this particular shape is calling out to wait maybe for 10 seconds. So when the cursor or when the execution reaches on this particular shape, it kind of waits for like 10 seconds to sit on this particular shape, and thereafter only it moves to the next shape. That's something which I came across. It can directly call out system commands, so some of the Windows commands, some of the Linux command, depending on what server, what machine your Atom or the executable space is sitting in. You can call out your window commands, you can call out your Linux level of commands, and uh, perform some of the activities over here. So some of the activities I recall is deleting some of the folders or files on the fly for some cleanup. Creation is doable otherwise also. But I could recall only deleting for now. But yeah, this is a capability to do those kind of activities. You can call out your stored procedures directly. You can call out SQL statements. So this comes in pretty handy, typically in the case of database interactions. But system commands is something which you can use in any set of integrations, any set of activity you are doing. And I think one interesting thing associated with this particular shape is, I'm sorry, it does not gives you an output confirmation of the command it has processed. So let's say I process the system command over here. Once executed, it does not gives you an output of that particular command you have processed. So usually when you run your SQL command in any other shape within the canvas, whatever the output you have received out of it. So let's say which is why, over this SQL command in the program command shape, you cannot use SQL statements, or even if you use it, you won't get the output of that particular SQL statement, at the output shape of this program command. So for now, just remember that you do not get an output of whatever you are executing in this shape. Like you don't get an output document of it if you're using like SQL, or if you're using stored procedure. So you don't get the exact output document out of it. And you will get just maybe a confirmation if it has been executed or not, but not the kind of output scenario. So for now, just remember that we'll probably see more in detail of that in some other scenario. But I recall this is some there are some queries or questions in the certification exam around this. When you do you get a output or you don't get a output or something like that. But there are some relevant questions I recall. So which is why I'm saying just remember for now, practicality or maybe in detail we'll get a little later onto it. All right, just delete for now. Okay. What I have tried to do in this particular process now is I have dropped in a XML data over here. I'll show you what the data look like. That's my okay. Do you see this Notepad++? Can somebody confirm?
Yes. I can see an XML message, big
Right.
XML message.
So this is a XML document, typically an IDoc document used, or it
So
comes
probably from SAP app, right? You will
right
get
from the SAP. Correct, that is correct. So I've dropped in over there just for the test purpose. It has a good structure. Right, I've dropped in there. I have created a map as well, simple map, nothing like complex over here. So I've created a profile, XML profile, and a flat profile profile. I think we saw that yesterday how we can create that, but you can see that quickly again with a few more options. So let's say we want to create. We go to this map, we want to create a new profile, XML profile matching with this particular data set which we want to test. I know this is XML scenario right now. It could be JSON, it could be flat file, it could be database related, or it could be EDI or something like that. So all different type of file patterns or data file patterns is something you can use over here in the message here. Okay, so and just to understand how we create the profile, let's understand from this XML example. Again, you can do it different ways. You can go back to this plus shape and create your profile from here by selecting profile. But that will not guarantee that you end up creating within the same folder. So let's go it this way. Either we can go back to the folder directly here and create from there. The another way of doing it, let's go back to the map. Let's try to choose a profile from here. If this profile was not selected here, it would be kind of a blank space here and saying, create your source profile or something. So in that case, we would select choose. So I'll tell you. Okay. Let's select your profile type. These are the different profile types we have in Boomi, and different profile types you can create: database, EDI, flat file, JSON, and XML. For gaining your good development hands, which is capable of driving out any set of integrations. You should be able to understand all these profile types. You should be able to work through all these profile types. Database is something when you interact with database, EDI comes into the B2B management side of it, or the EDI side of it. Flat files is something, it's like a simple text file format or a CSV kind of file format. JSON is something which will come more often in scenarios when you're working with web services or real-time integration scenarios. XML is something which will come handy again in some of the XML scenario, real-time scenarios, or like in the scenarios of different SaaS-based connector endpoints, different CRMs, or different third-party connector you will be interacting with. So like when you connect to Salesforce, the data sets you get is in the XML format. When you interact with SAP, different data you are able to fetch from there, like in the form of WAPIs or IDocs, you get those in XML format. So that is how it works. And that's how, this is something we have to be very much, aware of and very much hands-on. So I've selected profile type XML, multiple options I get under profile. If you have already created, you can select from here, but we're trying to create a new one. So let's go to this screen, create plus sign. Name something. It's a duplicate XML profile. Let's keep it that. So you can give your any readable name to your component over here. It's not something which is pretty defined, but in in the projects who are well established, or in the projects who have been for some time, or who have a bigger landscape, I think 99% of the times they have some structure around the naming conventions. So you might want to follow that, depending on your projects, depending on your specific requirements. Or over time, I'm sure you will be able to devise your own patterns for naming conventions as well. Right. So this is how it works. And you see this additional description clickable tab after the folder name, after the folder folder sign. If you click on that, it will give you an additional space to add some of the text, label text, which will give some details around this particular shape or this particular component, why you have built it. You can add any description over here, like you can mention where it is used, for what scenario you're using it, anything which could be helpful for any person in the future or for yourself as well. You can just add it up here. So I can add creating this profile just to get hands on for importing profile. Okay, I've clicked on it. I've like save. It is saved now. So as and when you get to this profile now, you'll get to see this description, and that gives a little more readability. So as per your need, you can use this option. Now get to import profile. There are options to create that manually as well, but I'm not aware if anybody will create JSON or XML level of profiles manually. So let's try to import. You get a different options to import from, build XML profile from either XML file, XML schema, or Rosetta Net kind of schema structures. XML schema is something which is used good often. I mean, I have used it. I haven't used Rosetta Net yet, but for now, in our case, let's try to run through XML file. Select file to upload. Okay. I'm trying to recall where I saved it. All right. Let's go to choose the file. I'll quickly go to my location and I'll select the file, open. So whatever file, whatever location your file is sitting at, you can just go back and give that name for the location. I'll click next. It is initializing, import, and finalizing the structure. Click finish, and if you see a exact relevant structure for that from that profile, from that file is being created over here. It has different options at the profile level. Data elements, which defines whatever fields you have under your data, under your profile you have created. And then you have type options underneath it. You have option folder underneath it, which will define encoding options. Respect minimum occurs, good option. So if you go to any element over here, any field over here, there are different multiple options you see over here. I'll just give a quick glance and will ask you out to go at your own pace, try to understand from it, and maybe we can look back tomorrow. So simple label name, namespace, typically comes in XML and JSON scenarios only, leave type name. So what I wanted to show is, minimum occur and maximum occur. Minimum occur option basically tells, this is the minimum number, this particular segment can appear in the profile or in the data structure. 0 means it is okay if the particular field does not appear as well in the profile or in the data. Maximum occur, whatever number it is set to, that's the maximum number it can occur. So it says 1. So when you receive some data, that this particular field cannot occur more than once in your data structure, in your data. If it is occurring more than once, there is something wrong with the data. It's a clear call out, right? Minimum occur. I mean, these are pretty helpful in the scenarios. So let's say minimum occurs say 0. Now what happens is typically let's get back to future because I think I'll confuse you otherwise. So I'm leaving that for now. There are looping options. Looping, I'm sure you all understand. Looping is basically repetition of a same section of data or same section of profile or data structure. Looping option tells you how looping works. There are 2 options, unique or occurrence. Unique says, I will repeat only the unique occurrence, unique set of data. If there are any duplicates, if there are any loops which have the same set of data, I will not, I will not loop it. I will not showcase that in the data I will read, or I will not write that in the data, I'll be writing. Occurrence says I'm not worried about the uniqueness, whatever sequence they will come up to me, I'll just read that way or I'll just write that down. Field length validations, if you click on that, this gives you an option to define your minimum length and maximum length of that particular field. So let's say I give 4 in the minimum and 10 in the maximum, which means and when you have clicked this checkbox, there is it has enforced the validations against these numbers. So under this, for this tab name field of mine, the value coming on for this field, it has to have minimum 4 characters and maximum 10. Less than 4 will give an error, more than 10 will give an error. That's how the validation works for field validations. You can define your character type. You have numbered category, you have date time category. Under date time, you will be able to give your formats as well. These are the different formats. You can read your dates, you can define your dates. If you give number, there are different categories you can do it. You can define in decimals, you can define in floats, you can define in real numbers, and all those scenarios. Implied decimals, we'll understand when we do some tests later on, but I'm sure you understand it otherwise. So let's leave it at character. Qualifier is something pretty good. You will end up creating pretty often. So let's say you have a loop, but your loop is appearing for the sake of different values 10 times, but you don't want to or you have to build some mapping logic around it, around a specific set of occurrence only. So let's say, for example, there are different level of billings, ship to billing, ship from billing, billing to, or something like that. In some of your order related details, but you want to build some structure around, you want to build some logic around the ship to addresses only. So if you create your logic around this particular profile structure, what it will end up doing, it will check for all the 3 addresses and do activity around it. But you can limit that readability by adding some qualifiers here. So qualifier is basically it qualifies your incoming set of information and read that data accordingly. We'll spend more time on it pretty soon, but that's how you can add it. From here you can define your qualifiers over here, and let's say I give GH and save it. Now when I go back to this particular structure, I can define my qualifier here. Select qualifier, and you see under tab name I'm getting a qualifier here now, so I can add that up. We'll see that sooner, how does this work more often. So there are likewise there would be multiple options we can which you can just walk across for yourself, and respect minimum occurs is something which we can enforce from here. So yeah, just go around these options, just try to gain some understanding, and if you have some confusion, we can always look back on it. All right, so we created that profile. Let's select that. That's appearing here now. But why it is not appearing? Let's save. Now it is saved and it is appearing now. Okay, let's try to map two basic fields. So that something runs, top name, name, and so yeah, that's it. Save. I go back to this. Okay, go back to this. Yeah, save. Okay. We click on the save. We click the main process as well. Okay. Now you have configured, so like on a very basic example set, you have created your map, you have created your profiles, you have configured all those things, and you have added some of the mappings as well. Again, depending on requirements, you can do 100 of activities over here as well on your mapping functions. But let's not get directly there now. Now we have built that process, we have saved it. There are scenario, I mean, you will be requiring to test your processes, like unit tested whenever you are building it on the fly in your progress. So this is how we do it. You see this funnel kind of shape here and marked as test button. Click on that. Once you do that, you will, see a couple of options here. This drop down gives you a capability to select from the available environments or the available atoms in your landscape. We can use anything right now because we have created all the test atoms only. So let's say I select this test atom. You have a drop down. You have a capability to add your extensions directly over here for the tests. Probably nothing is configured right now, so we don't have anything to configure to, but as and when needed, you can add extensions to your connections, partners, process properties, and all that. Let's click OK for now. Let's do test. Okay, now you see this process test has went fine. Everything is green. Couple of options which you get around here under the process name drop down. You have all these options. View log. If you click on view log, you can view your logs over here, which will help you understand, how activities has been performed on different shapes. What has happened on the start shape, what has happened on the message shape, what has happened on the map shape, and how much time has been spent on that particular shape. In case of errors, error will appear here. There are different categories under here. You can select between info, warning, or severe. So because there is no error here right now, you won't see anything under warning or severe. But if there is any error or you have created some notifications for specifically information or warning scenarios, they will also appear here. But typically in the case of errors, you will get to see a lot in the warning and severe category. Okay. Other option is you can download your log. So whatever we just saw, you're able to download that as well. It's trying to save it to some location. Let's save. Let's try to open that. This is how it will look like. So whatever you saw over on the canvas, it has been downloaded as well. Retry your previous test. You can just use the same, with this, you can just use the same data set in your earlier, or just use test and, do a retry of that particular test you have did. New test basically cancels this particular execution and creates a new test scenario, but retry, previous test basically will only retry this particularly recently executed test. If you select on different shapes, let's say this is the start shape, or we go back on the map. You see a couple of different options here. Under logs, just basic header label information. You go to the shape source data. Shape source data basically tells you what data you have received at that particular shape. And you can click on this magnifying window and check what data you have received. This is the data which is sitting over here right now. I can download and do other things over here as well. So this comes pretty handy when, let's say, I've done this mapping and I want to see what transformation I have done. How does the new data look like? I will go to the next shape, like end and continue in my case, click on that and go to my shape source data. I will click on this and this will tell me how my data looks like after the transformation. So this is what I have created based on whatever mapping I have done. So in the case of debug, in the case of unit testing, in the case of your ongoing development, this is very handy. You keep on checking how your data look like, based on the you have created.
Sorry to pause you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that message, mail, old map, and then continue. So what do we call them? Maybe yesterday I missed it.
Your voice went pretty low. I could not
No,
understand.
what I was asking you is that, so in that canvas, I see four things,
Shapes.
right? Okay, okay, shapes.
Yeah.
Understood. So out of these four shapes, in which shape do we? I mean, I have seen those two XML models, right? The source and the destination, and you have mapped
Mm-hmm.
you have done the field mapping, right?
Right.
So usually in the real-time scenario, so those two XML, maybe in our jargon we call it as a models or XML files.
Mhm.
So is that the client that they will provide us and we need to do the mapping, or how does the things work in the real-time scenario?
Okay, I understand. So in the real-time scenario, because I have not created any connections here or anything like that, in the real-time scenario, basically, most of the cases, like in the start shape, you will be connecting to some connector. So let's call it maybe like SAP connector or something like that. So you'll connect to some SAP or any other connector or on your start shape. You will give your connection attributes and everything. And from that particular endpoint or source system, I mean, you will fetch some data based on different filters you will provide and all that. In those scenarios, this message shape will not be appearing here because this is some static data which I have given just to do some test and do some hands-on around here. But in your
Got
real time, you will connect to some some
so
source system. Thereafter, you will do a different other activities like maybe initially you will add try catch, lot of try catches to add error handling scenarios. You will do a lot of business rules maybe to add up some validations, maybe some decision shape, maybe some routing with the case that you will add up key. Acha, I get this data. If this data has this particular value, I need to perform these set of steps. So like I think we saw yesterday also in some process we built just the outliners. So take you over there. I don't know what was the process name. Yeah, like this. So what we are doing here is we added a route shape based on A, B, C, some set of values. And based on that, we created some routing. Like if I get A, I get to this branch and I'll probably end up performing these set of activities in two branches. If I get a B, I am directly going to a map and performing this. If I get a C, I'm not doing any mapping. Rather, I'm structuring a message which I will send out to some email logic or something like that. So that's kind of scenario we'll build maybe using routing or based on your project requirements. You will do a lot of things over here. You will do validations, you will do decision shapes, you might do some process calls, and you will end up doing a lot of data processing as well. Maybe you will split something, maybe you will replace something, use some do decoding and kind of a lot of different activities. So that's more in the real time. And then thereafter you will connect to some map like directly and you'll do your transformations. And post that also you may do something and thereafter, in the real time you will have some additional connector here, which will be your target system. So let's say you're sending some data to Salesforce. I'm calling Salesforce pretty often. Just I mean, don't get confused by it, but it could be any end system. So I've dropped Salesforce over here. I'll probably drop in some existing connection or build my an endpoints. I'll click. I mean, I'll connect the dots. You can call it out. Like this is my process. So I'm calling something from SAP. I'm doing 100 other things like validations, data processing and all that. I'm doing some mapping transaction. I'm then sending my data to Salesforce. And then that's it. My process is done. I may have 100 other things after this as well. Because once you send something to Salesforce, you can configure your responses as well. You can configure processes to send response. And then you can put a check on that response if your whatever data you have sent to Salesforce, if that was a success or not. If it was a success, you can perform some activity. If it is not a success, you have attained some failure, you can do different other activities based on that check. Maybe you can do some rollbacks. You can maybe send out some notifications. You can maybe create some ServiceNow tickets and all those scenarios. So just giving you some a real-time project scenes which happens in
Understood.
current lab.
Understood. So one more question. Okay.
Mhm.
So going back to this mapping,
Mhm.
that map shape. Okay. So usually now you have shown us XML to XML. So if say for example in a scenario where I'm fetching some XML IDOC, okay, and I need to send to some end system which is expecting in the JSON format. So all the transformations from different format to different format, we all perform in the same shape, or do we have different shapes apart from this?
It all depends on your need. So transformation is basically something you will do in the map, because that's where you will transform your source data to your end system data. Now I have created a flat file structure over here in my end system and system profile. But depending on my needs, it could be anything. Like I was calling that it's a Salesforce endpoint target point. In the Salesforce, this end system profile would be XML profile, because that's how Salesforce understands its data structure. In case of some web services, it could be JSON. In case of if I'm trying to send something to database, it could be a database profile structure. Or you're trying to send something to a specific another endpoint, it could be some customized data structure as well, custom based data structure as well. So based on your need, this structure could be anything. And you will do the transformation using this, but based on your need, you can use n number of maps within your transaction. So maybe there are scenarios where I recall, typically in the case of B2B or EDI processings, we do different map for header, we do different map for details, and then we combine those two things. So it all depends on your requirements. There are scenarios where you will do one set of transaction with some intermediary profile structure. So like maybe I need to transform my XML to JSON, but because of the complexity of the data on the XML side, or because of the complex structure on the head JSON side, I'm not able to achieve that directly. Or maybe you have a lot of in between transactional computations or mapping functions to do. So what you end up doing is, rather than doing your transaction directly, you do your first set of transaction from SAP to maybe some inbuilt XML or flat file or JSON structure in the first shape. And then in the second shape, you call out that particular intermediary profile structures to your end system profile or end system target structure. So it all depends on the complexity. It all depends on the project needs. It all depends on the specific problems you face across while you're doing mapping. Based on that, you will be able to figure out how you achieve that. But yes, any sort of mapping transformation from one format to another, you will do that in maps. You will do that through maps.
Understood. Understood. So one last question. So do we call this as a process? This complete set of 4 shapes that we
Yeah.
put
So
together.
anything you're building under this canvas or this entire SAT, in this entire set, you call through with different names. You call it a process, you call it an integration, some of the people call it a flow as well.
Correct.
Some people have different names. So it's not something which is like a hard written somewhere. You can try to put your naming, which is understandable from different other peoples as well. So I used to call it Boomi process, in my like from my early days, but when I moved to a different organization, they don't used to understand what a Boomi process is. I think they used to call it typical integration or flow, something around it. So
Got it.
I needed to accommodate my terminology based on understanding of them, because not everybody you are interacting on your other side is from the integration landscape. There would be people from different other teams, SAP team, Salesforce team or some other different technologies. So you maybe at times need to make a balance between your terminologies.
Got it. Thank you.
So yeah, that's how it looks like. And okay. So yeah, what we were doing is we ran a test and we tried to see what all things will appear there. And I think we kind of finished that. Let's leave it. I think we saw it anyways. I'll show you quickly how we perform the deployments and a quick example of sales, I mean, of licensing as well. So for now, let me remove this connection over here. And this is the shape. So assume this is the process you have built, although it won't with the current thing we have done. It's not something which usually you will deploy. But assume that you have built your connectors and everything over here. You have built a real-time integration scenario, and you want to deploy it now. You have tested it as well in your unit testing capability, but we want to do the deployment and test it on few instances maybe, or try out the deployed ways of doing it. So how you do it? You go to create package component, which you see right on the canvas. Again, there are different ways to do it. You can also go to this deployed tab here, go to go to package components. A new tab will be opened, a new window will be opened. You go to that. Once it gets opened, you can create your components from here. So if you click create components, it will take you to this window where you can find your process. Ours was what? Copy process. This one, copy example. We can select it and then you can do your packaging over here. That's one way. The another way is you can directly create from here. Click on create package component. Don't worry about anything else you have opened here. Nothing will be lost unless you have anything unsaved. If you have anything unsaved, once you click this, it will ask you how to save. There will be a window message that will appear. Now, if you click package component creation from here, it will automatically select your process or the component you have in hand. So you see a couple of things here, component name, component type, latest version, and the latest notes. It will appear, a lot of things will appear here. If you have already created a component, your latest versions will appear, names, notes will appear, these things will appear. Under actions, you see view included components, package, component history, unselect. Unselect will simply unselect it. You can select again. View included components. Now, when you're creating your components, you only see the process. You're not aware, you're not seeing what all components it have. So if you click on that, it will showcase you the other components you are taking across in this package. So we have a XML profile, we have a flat profile, and we have a map in that particular shape, in that particular process. So that is what it will appear here. And then you see other options as well. So it is telling you name of the component, type of the component, what folder it sits in, what is the revision, what is the version of that particular component. I'll tell you a bit about it maybe tomorrow. This is also a good thing to take care of. It will tell you who is the individual who has made the last modification and when it was done. These things, modified by, modified date, these are pretty handy when you do version comparison. We'll see maybe tomorrow. Let's close that. And package component history, it will give you history if a lot of packaging has already been done in the past for your particular shape, but because we are doing it for the first time, nothing that will appear here. So we'll close it for now. Now these are the options here. So let's go click next, add details. It will give you option to add your version name, your packaging notes. So again, there is no hard nomenclature here for version naming, but you can maybe devise your own naming convention. The way I do it is I add my account's name in front of it. Give say underscore or hyphen. Maybe, I mean, the way I do it, I give a month name. After that, I give date after that. I give year, and then I give a version number. So maybe like 1. And then I click create package update. So what it helps me is, whenever I'm creating a next component, packaging doing a repackaging, uh, just by the component name, it tells me when I have last created the component or when I have last probably deployed it. It will give me a foresight in my mind at least that if this duration has been very long, I have other ways to check on this window as well, but this is something which comes in pretty handy. So if I have a longer duration, when I have last deployed it and when I'm deploying it today or when I'm creating a component today, there are higher probabilities that someone else might have changed something on the component, or I might have changed something in the component. So this gives me an additional step to go back and figure out what changes I have done, if any, so that I unintentionally do not send anything to deployed versions which I'm not expecting in the new deployments. So just from those perspective, this comes handy. Then you can give any packaging note, first deployment, or deploying it for the first time, or deploying it for some testing stage or something like that, whatever works for you. This is just a description. Create package. I have clicked on that. So packages created. If you refresh here, you can see that. But once the package is created, it will ask me to deploy as well. I click deploy, and it will give me a list of available environments and the atoms here. So I have production and test. I can go back and deploy to the particular environment. So I have deployed it to test. Again, you can add some deployment notes, very high character limit, so you can add up your descriptions as detailed. Select versions. It will ask you to select the version you want to deploy, the packaged version. I mean, as a practice, you will see the most latest version over here, but obviously you can go back and select your older versions as well. So like you see option here, select different package. So if there are existing versions which you have done in the past, you can select those as well. So I'll just go click next review. You can go back and forth as well. So there also you see back select versions on those examples, but I'll say deploy, and it has taken me to our deployment page. Not yet. It will say deployment successful. Now, so far I have been staying on the build tab only, build page only, but from here I can go back and see my deployment. So let's go to view deployment. It will take me to the deployment page, and you see, here you have a deployment category or deployment entry here now, which tells your process name, type of the component. It gives my package name, environment name, deployment date, deploy by, and all, if you have added any notes as well. Again, some of the options here. Deploy to different environments. So what this basically means is you're taking your code to a different environment now. I have deployed it to test. Let's say I have different other environments. Or how it is very beneficial is in your other projects as well. I think this is how a project cycle runs. You build something, you unit test it, and then you test it on QA or UAT or something. And then once testing are finished and you're through in that testing cycle, you move your code to another instance, maybe production or for UAT or for client testing and all that. So for those capability, this is how we do it. I have tested everything on, let's say, this test environment. All is good. In this particular packaged version, there might be revisions which you will see here, based on testing you have done over here. You will redeploy things. So these revision number will change. Now, once you have the most latest version, you can go and deploy it to different versions. So if you click that, it will give you this window, which will ask you to select the new version. New environment, you can give your notes and you can just go further and deploy it. Different other options we have is rollback. You can roll back to last deploy version in case you have encountered any errors. So if you click rollback, your earlier existing versions will appear here in this list. You can go back by adding notes and redeploy your previous versions. You can undeploy if let's say your process has reached a stage where it is not needed anymore. It has become redundant. It's not required a project requirement. So you can just undeploy so that it is not consuming resources. It is not consuming licenses. It is not consuming any sort of resources we need. So just to free up on those, you can undeploy it. You can check your deployment history whenever, what all deployments has been done in the past, who have done it, when they have been done it. Compare deployments and copy to Component Explorer. We'll see tomorrow. Again, good options to be taken care of from here. Let's walk to these filters tomorrow. So let's go back to build. You will reach on the same project spaces, project canvas, which was opened earlier and where you have done your deployment. So nothing has been lost. You have reached back on the same page. So this is how you deploy your integrations to particular environment. This is how you check on different categories or different things on that page. Tomorrow, what we will do is, although as part of the curriculum content, I have kept just 2 days for going across into these two activities, these two details. And I know I'm probably doing a little overboard, but I think we have still few options to look at, which we will try to cover up tomorrow. I will try to add some correction over here, and then we will see how does that impact on the licenses when you deploy something with a connector. We will try to run this particular integration and we will see how things will appear in the process reporting page, what all different options you have on the process reporting page, how we can take care of those things, and then maybe some other things at the atom level as well. So we will try to cover all those options tomorrow, and we'll try to finish up all the things we needed to look from the perspective of all the options we have on the canvas or from the development perspective. All right, having said that, I will pause here and will give that back to you. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask now.
You just explained the deployments, right? Okay, so that's
Just 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can I go ahead now?
Yeah.
So you just explained that deployments, right? The packaging, bundling up all our process and the artifacts and everything and deploying in the environment.
Right.
So, is there any other way? Usually in the real time where we do automate this process, or is this the usual process that we do in the real time project as well?
There are other ways of doing it as well, more advanced ways of doing it as well, where deployment capabilities, scheduling capabilities, running capabilities being taken care by directly from GitHub as well. So there are but obviously those are advanced capabilities and not every project require those. you will require additional set of individuals to take care of those people who are well versed in GitHub, people who understand the CI/CD kind of things, agile kind of things, well versed in those DevOps kind of thing. So and that's something which is on a very on the projects which are very highly scalable, very highly engulfed with people. But usually on smaller set of projects or routine set of projects, not just the smaller set, but a good amount of hefty projects as well. We takes, I mean, individuals takes care of the deployment activities by themselves, because that's something which gives you a more granular control too. And this is something which happens like once in a lifetime, because you don't deploy anything daily. You end up doing deployments once you have tested everything. So this is like a once in a lifetime or twice kind of activity only. But yeah, capabilities are there to do those things externally as well. And that's where we make use of Boomi Atomsphere APIs. We can do deployments out from outside. We can run integrations from outside, and whole lot of other things as well. So yeah, capabilities are there, but it depends on requirements.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other thing you have? If not, we are good. I try to limit myself from tomorrow on. I feel at times I was too much overboard. Let me know as well if at any point of time you feel that we probably have went in too much of detail. Some of the things we may skip. So you can give that feedback at any point of time. It will be good for me and for both all of us as well. But yeah, as far as you're finding it good and you're finding it good for your learning, that's okay.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, because we will get to know the things in detail, that too, how things will work in the real time, right? Yeah, it is this is my perspective. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'm just I understand that, and I'm happy that you were finding it meaningful. But yeah, I'll leave the floor open for any feedback, any point of time you feel like. If you want to stop me at any point, just do that. Feel free out, because we don't have a pretty heavy, uh, you know, mix of people over here. So I think we can keep it more interactive. You can ask questions in between also. That's okay. We can do it that way.
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
All right. So let's call it a day. Thank you very much for your time. Go back, spend some time on all the things we encountered, reviewed today. These are some of the basic options which you will use daily in and out. If you have any questions, we can take on those things tomorrow.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Take care and see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Good day to everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you, everyone.